Hi guys, real quick before we start this video, this video is discussing suicide awareness, and we discuss a lot about suicide and mental health and things of the like. If this is a difficult topic for you to handle, no shade, no hard feelings or any of that, but if this is a difficult topic, we would recommend you go check out one of our other videos. Thank you. Four years ago today, my classmate took his own life. He was just one of my classmates. I didn't know him all that well, but I grew up with him for 10 years, so this affected me all the same. He was known for having a hot temper and a prickly personality, but those who knew him well knew a very loving guy. I kind of wish I would have gotten to know that person. The day he did what he did, it really wasn't that much of a noteworthy day. I remember I had a really bad day that day for other reasons, but other than that, there was really nothing noteworthy about that day. Nothing that could have possibly warned any of us what he had planned to do that night. The day after he did what he did, I woke up and I'm still kind of down in the dumps because I had just had a really bad day, but otherwise there was nothing special about that morning. I remember looking out the window and seeing that the sky was dark gray with clouds, and it was starting to rain, and like there was no sun in the sky, none of that. It was just dark, stormy clouds, and it was starting to rain. So typically I would have ridden my bike to school, but obviously it's raining now, so I can't do that. So my dad came downstairs to get me after I had gotten ready for school that day, and he was like, "All right, Annika, I'll take you to school." So that's what happened. And when I got to school, something felt ever so slightly wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. When I stopped at my locker to drop my stuff off, one of my classmates, she stopped by and asked me if I was okay. And I was like, yeah, of course, because at this point, this is any other day. I went to the band room. I spent a lot of time hanging out in the band room at this time. I went to the band room. I shut myself in one of the practice rooms. I started playing piano music. I remember seeing my band director stop at the window to the door and glance at me out of concern and then keep going, and he seemed kind of sad, and I couldn't figure out why. My hands started hurting from playing the piano, and I was feeling stressed because, like I said, I had just had a bad day, and that's kind of still wearing on me. And something I do when I am stressed out like that is pace, and I'll walk around in circles around the halls. I'll just pace, walk around. It's just what I do for stress relief. I know I look kind of weird when I do that, but so I can't really, my hands are hurting from piano. I can't really focus side to side. I'm just gonna go walk around. So I come to the commons, and something about it is screaming something is wrong, but I couldn't figure it out. And I'm looking around and trying to figure out which way I want to walk. And then I look to my right and I see somebody crying. And then I look to my left and I see a crying girl run to the bathroom with another crying person following right behind her. And then I look back to my right and I see more people who are crying. And as I look around the commons, I see that everyone is crying and huddled together, hugging each other and sobbing. And the only people who are not crying are some of the freshmen who didn't exactly understand what was going on. And it starts really, really wearing on me. occurring to me. Something's wrong. Something happened. Like, something happened last night. What's going on? And then I see a girl that I didn't particularly like, but it happened all the same. She comes out of the locker bay and she passes me without a second glance, and her face is bright red and she is sobbing. And that's when, like, she wasn't the type to cry that much. So that was kind of the thing that was like, okay, something happened, something's very wrong. So I'm trying to think, I'm like, how am I going to find this out? Because I really didn't have all that many friends or that many people who were going to tell me what was going on here. So, and then I thought of my band director. I had a lot of trust for him. He was very influential, and I figured if anyone's going to tell me what's going on, he will. So I turned around and quickly walked back to the band room, and there are people in his office, and he seems kind of down and sad, and there's people in varying levels of sadness and grief, and some people are like smiling and like trying to stay positive, but something's wrong. So these people clear off, and I like stumble into his office, and I'm like, Cooley, what's going on? Hearing that was about the equivalent of getting hit in the stomach by a bus. Like, that's kind of how it felt. And you could see me reeling from the impact of this news. And so, as calmly as I could, I told him thank you, and I stumbled back out of the band room. And I start trying to pace in the halls, because that's what I do when I'm stressed. And I can barely stay on my feet because I am in such a shock. And the only thing going through my head is, no, this can't be real. This isn't real. It's all a dream. This can't be real. He can't be gone. He can't be dead. And I'm walking around and I'm seeing people together crying and crying. I see one person, she's so upset. She like starts falling over and someone catches her and she's sobbing. It was just really bad. I went to my first class and I remember the teacher, and the teacher had been crying, and she told us all what happened and said, we're going to keep going, not because we want to make light of the situation, but that's all we really can do. And so that's what we did, I guess. My schedule always had a break between my second and third classes of the day, and I passed a group of freshmen, and no offense on these freshmen, like, they were kind of in a place, they were still a little bit too young to understand what was really happening, a lot of them. But I hear them talking, and they're talking as if they're discussing juicy gossip. And I hear one girl saying, oh yeah, I heard he committed suicide and I couldn't believe it. And like, they're just talking about this as if it's juicy gossip, and we're talking about how the latest celebrity who broke up with their significant other. Like as if it's just any other juicy gossip, and we're not talking about somebody's death. And that's when I found out that he had committed suicide. I heard all sorts of rumors that day over what he did, but what the teachers had told me when I asked, they said that the family had asked that that the teachers don't disclose. I did hear all sorts of stuff though. One of the biggest noteworthy things was I described the weather when I woke up that morning, and that weather persisted all day. It rained and pouring rain, and it stormed all day. The sun did not come out. It was just dark clouds, like no sunshine, nothing at all. And when I described that, I always told people that God himself was crying with us. The the rain actually persisted for a couple of days, and this dark weather. For the rest of the day, like, everyone was in various stages of grief. They had to bring in as many psychologists as they could find in the St. Croix area to come in and meet with the grieving students. I saw a lot of people, like, carrying around blankets, and, like, we were all just broken. In the days after what happened, my class kind of restored my faith in humanity just a little bit. Because for the next couple of days, like, for once we actually came together as a class, and we lost a classmate. What other choice did we have? But, like, we all came together and no one was left behind. We did a lot of things in his memory. We made shirts and bracelets in his memory. The psychologist had to stay at our school for at least another week every day, meeting with this huge influx of students who were hurting. They had to form, like, therapy circles for the students who had known him the best. There were a lot of balloon ceremonies done. The choir sang at his funeral, and, like, the sanctuary at his funeral was packed with people who had known him to some capacity. Most of them were students from school. I did see several students step out because of the monstrosity of what had happened. There were countless speakers who came in that year to talk about suicide awareness. Speakers who, everything from people who had experienced it before to people who were a part of the county to save people who wanted to do this stuff. They had multiple computerized tests trying to root out anybody else who was thinking about this stuff so that they could get the help they needed. Like, it was bad. Like, multiple balloon ceremonies. Everyone wore these yellow ribbons in memory of him. Just a lot of that stuff. At the end of the year, we started a program, like a suicide prevention program called the Pit Crew, and I'm sure there were other programs that were started in retrospect, and those presentations and the programs and everything else, they continued until after I graduated. Because, like, I spent months in complete denial. Like, nothing was setting in. It was all just a shock. I just couldn't, like, I couldn't possibly fathom that this kid that I had grown up with for 10 years, that he was gone and I was never going to see him again. And it took me, this happened in September, it took me until Christmas to accept that he was gone. And while I didn't know him that well, he was my classmate and I grew up with him all the same, and I don't think I'm ever going to forget.
Okay, this is the first time that I'm speaking out loud about my experience as a young teenager, so this is kind of hard, but in light of the situation, I feel like I need to share my story. The first time I thought about suicide, I was about 12 years old. It was a difficult time for me because, one, I was going through puberty. I was very shy, gangly, awkward young lady. And the other thing that happened that people don't know is that summer before that year, I had fallen and had a pretty significant head and neck injury. And so I was kind of a prime target for bullying at that time. And so there was a kid in my class, his name was Tommy, and Tommy terrorized me. He would call me a retard, a space cadet, tell me how ugly and stupid I was, and he and his friends, which was pretty much most of the 6th grade boys, thought it was pretty funny, and they would kind of gang up on me. So one day I was in the gym and we were having playing basketball for gym class, and someone threw a ball and hit me really hard. And I don't know what happened, but something in that moment just kind of broke inside of me. I was tired of the bullying. I was tired of feeling everyone hated me, and my eyes welled up with tears, and Tommy was standing right there, looking at me with that same silly, goofy grin he always had, and I told him I wish I was dead. And he laughed at me. He thought it was funny, and he was just mocking me as usual. And at that very moment, I realized that I really did wish I was dead, and that I wanted to die because I was just tired of it. And I realized that I didn't like myself anymore because I believed everything they said. I believed that I was stupid. I believed I was ugly. I believed that I was an outcast and I wasn't worth it. And that was when I started thinking about suicide. So, I kind of held it together, though. I had a few friends and they knew that I was struggling, and I got through it, I guess. My parents had no clue what was going on in my young mind. And so I kind of, by 8th grade, I was doing okay, and things were getting better. And then my freshman year hit. And it's funny looking back because I remember talking to my daughter when she was going into her freshman year. Her guidance counselor warned me that a lot of times when people go into high school their freshman year, it's not uncommon that your friends would suddenly not want to be your friends anymore. And so, it was funny because I had blocked all this out because I didn't want to remember it, but that's exactly what happened to me. So I was a freshman in high school and I had 2 friends. And they were kind of new friends because the people I had friends with in middle school, we just kind of went our separate ways. And I just kind of didn't feel like I belonged at that period. It was just a real vulnerable time because you're a freshman, you're starting a new school, you're trying to figure things out. And so I had these 2 friends and things were going okay. And then they were in band with me. So we went to a Kansas City together at this band event. And these 2 girls started kind of ganging up on me and picking on me and making fun of me and stuff. And then they just decided they didn't want to be friends with me anymore. And so suddenly, I'm a freshman, I have no friends, I'm sitting alone at lunch, and I'm feeling lost, and I'm feeling alone. And just one night, shortly after that trip to Kansas City, I was like, I just didn't want to live anymore, so I made an attempt to take my life. And no one knew about it, except for my sister and my parents. And it was really hard on them, I think, even more than on me, especially my sister who found me. Fortunately, because the measures I did wasn't serious enough to require hospitalization, we were able to hide it more easily. And the good thing about it was I got the help I needed. And so, I was able to get help, and I was able to move forward from the situation. And not long after that, I did start making some friends and things got better. So it was a really hard time, and it was kind of our family's dark secret, but it did get better. And I survived, I guess, and it did affect my self-esteem for many years, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I began to see my identity for who I was. But the sad part of the story is that Tommy, who was kind of the first person that was really a major bully and that terrorized me, he ended up taking his own life when we were grown, after I moved away. So probably about 15 to 20 years ago, I can't remember exactly when, I got the call that he had shot himself. And for me, I had no ill feelings towards him. I had forgiven him for what he did, and it was just really sad for me to hear that. I was kind of just like, wow, I guess I wish that Tommy would have seen what I saw because I realized that it's all about your identity and who you identify with. And obviously, Tommy's identity was rooted in something that he felt like he couldn't live any longer. And so, taken away from that, I'm just really glad that I didn't follow through with my plans and that I didn't succeed when I made an attempt. And I'm glad I got the help I needed, because I have a wonderful husband and 3 beautiful kids, and they wouldn't have been here if I would have succeeded. And I'm also really thankful for my family, my parents, for the unconditional love they had. I was really blessed in that way, that I had that unconditional love. And just to think of, I don't know, at the time I kind of felt like I wasn't very popular, obviously, in school and stuff. I don't know what my classmates would have done or felt if I would have succeeded, but I know that it would have haunted my parents and my sister, and it would have been an awful thing. So I'm glad that I'm still here, and I'm glad that I have this beautiful family, and that God has a purpose for me. So no matter where you are in life, if you sometimes things feel hopeless and bleak, just know that there is a light and there's a purpose. And I just ask that if you are considering suicide, that you look to see how it would affect your family and the people who love you, and see that you are a beautiful child of God, and that you have a purpose. I know that sounds cliche-ic, but I can just say from personal experience that we all are here on this earth for a reason, and if we can just get through the dark moments and then we choose life, then it's worth it. Thank you.
So in lieu of the anniversary we're having today, we wanted to do some suicide awareness stuff. What happened was tragic, and if we can lessen the occurrence, maybe that would be good. Because yeah, it's hard to think of other people who may be going through what his family went through, or what he went through, or anything like that. Because I have had some suicidal friends in the past, and one thing I found with a lot of them was that it's hard to get help because of the stigma and the fear. So I could sit here just saying, oh, if you need help, come ask all I want, but there's always that fear of hurting people, that fear of the stigma, and all of that. So when they don't speak up, it can be hard to root them out. But we figured we would share some warning signs to look for. Obviously, the most obvious one is like questions about that, or statements like, oh, I want to kill myself, I want to commit suicide, blah blah blah. Or another common one is suddenly asking a bunch of questions about death, or seeing them research about death. Obtaining a weapon is one, like a weapon or pills they don't need, or anything like that. That's those ones are obviously some more visible ones. Some less common ones, or not less common, but less noticeable ones. They may be exhibiting a lot of signs of being really down or sad, depressed, all of that. Or signs of not caring anymore. So, like, for example, they may stop bathing, they may stop eating, they may stop taking care of themselves. Say it's someone who might typically wear like a cute t-shirt and jeans, and then all of a sudden, they start wearing like sweatpants and sweatshirts. They may be showing signs of irregular sleep patterns, like they may not be getting enough sleep and you might see them tired all the time, or they may be getting too much sleep and you may not see them as much because they're sleeping. You know, that's always a thing. Self-harm is one. Just because someone is self-harming does not mean they want to commit suicide. A lot of people who do self-harm, they're doing it for other reasons, or they're doing it almost to cope, so that to prevent getting to that point. But a lot of people who may be suicidal, they may be, you know, cutting their wrists, cutting their thighs, burning, hitting their wrists or something like that against walls, like anything to hurt themselves. On this line, they also may be abusing alcohol and drugs, or they may be doing reckless things. And then one thing to think about is if something devastating recently happened, you may want to keep that in mind. If one of their loved ones committed suicide or attempted it, like if someone close to them committed suicide, you should probably keep an eye on them. Recent failures such as losing out on a huge opportunity, losing your job or your career, breaking up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, survivors of anything that may cause trauma, like you know, veterans who may have PTSD, sexual assault survivors, people who just survived like a car crash, plane crash, you know, or other like close call, you know, you may want to keep an eye on them. They could be experiencing a lot of things. And then finally, one big one is those who have previous suicide attempts under their belt. So if you know this person has any history of overdosing or trying to hurt themselves or fatally, you know, kill themselves in any way, you should keep an eye on them, because if they've done it once, they may try to do it again. For those who are considering taking this path, you may feel so alone right now. You may feel like no one cares about you. You may feel like your life is worthless. Like, what's the point of living? You may feel a lot of things, but I just want to tell you, this isn't the end. I want to urge you to please reach out and talk to someone. Please get help. Like don't give up like this. I don't know who you are, but you're so much better than this. Like you are worth so much more to this. It's hard to realize how you're gonna hurt the people around you, but those people, whether it may seem like they do or not, those people need you. You can't give up now. You're so much stronger than this. You can do this. Like, I know you can do this. I believe in you. If you're in a position where you don't have anyone to talk to, and yeah, I know that's difficult. That can be a thing, you know. I know there are different suicide hotlines, and we'll link some in the description below. I know there's like online websites where you can like message a therapist, and it can be completely anonymous, and the therapist will help talk you through things, you know, and that's a resource for you.
I about a year ago was working with a woman. She's a biblical counselor, and she works with young ladies who a lot of times are suicidal. And her son, I think it was 5 years ago, had committed suicide. And I interviewed her for my blog, so I'm going to also include that link. And she talks about some of the life-saving things that she does with her clients who are suicidal. And so it's got some good suggestions. There's some Bible verses that you can recite, and some other information that has been really life-saving and helpful for some of the people that she's worked with. So that's another resource that you can look at on this video. And once you're gone, it's final. So we just urge you to reconsider if you're thinking about taking your life, because there's so many people that you will hurt, and you just don't know what your future can hold.
So, kind of a sad video, but thank you for joining us today. We'll see you later.
Bye.